You know, when you watch a master illusionist perform a stage show, you walk into the theater fully expecting to be fooled.
Right, you know there is a trick.
Exactly. You know there is a trick. And yet, because you're staring so intently at the flash of the cape or the sudden burst of smoke, you completely miss what their hands are doing right in front of your face.
It's misdirection in its purest form, really. They give you something shiny to look at, so you just kind of ignore the actual mechanics of the situation.
Yeah, and looking at the massive stack of tech sources we are diving into today, I'm honestly trying to figure out if we are watching a genuine technological leap or just a very expensive, very shiny magic trick.
That is the million-dollar question today.
Because today is August 7, 2026, and the highly anticipated Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 8 has officially hit shelves.
The quintessential folding smartphone. I mean, it's the device that really normalized the idea that our screens can bend in half again.
We have a lot of material to synthesize today to figure out if it is actually worth your money. We've got the official Samsung specification sheets out of New Zealand.
Always good for the raw numbers.
Right. And a rather blunt buyer's breakdown from Laptop Outlet, Wikipedia's latest technical overviews, some pricing data from Reliance Digital in India, and a completely bizarre, almost unhinged transcript excerpt from an official Samsung YouTube video that we absolutely have to dissect later.
Oh, I can't wait to get into that one.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the exterior, the physical hardware, the first thing you notice when you actually hold it.
Yeah, the physical footprint is where we see the most immediate, albeit subtle, changes. The Flip 8 comes in pink, graphite cream, and a Samsung-exclusive mint color.
Okay, pretty standard lineup.
Right. But the real engineering focus is on the dimensions. When you fold it closed, the device is now 13.1 millimeters thick.
Which is what compared to last year.
That is a reduction of 0.6 millimeters from the Flip 7, and it weighs 180 grams, which is an 8-gram weight loss.
Okay, stop right there. I mean, I ran the numbers on this before we sat down, and I just have to call this out.
Go for it.
Losing 8 grams of weight is physically the equivalent of taking 2 little paper packets of sugar out of your pocket.
Yeah, just 2 packets.
As a consumer, are we really supposed to applaud an engineering team for removing 2 packets of sugar from a device? Does that actually change how this phone feels in your hand?
I mean, it sounds totally absurd framed that way.
Yeah.
But you really have to look at the geometry of a folding phone versus a traditional slab phone.
Okay, how so?
Well, if you take a standard iPhone or Galaxy S and shave off 8 grams, you will never feel it because that weight is distributed across a large, flat, 6-inch rectangle.
Right. The moment of inertia is totally different.
Precisely. A clamshell foldable is effectively 2 incredibly dense blocks of battery, glass, and titanium stacked directly on top of each other.
It's super concentrated.
Exactly. It creates a highly localized, dense point of gravity in your pocket, or, say, a small clutch purse. When you thin that folded block down by 0.6 millimeters and shave off those 8 grams, you're fundamentally altering the density of that block.
So it's more about how it rests in your pocket.
Yeah, millimeters matter in foldables because they compound. The goal is to make it feel less like a heavy paperweight dragging down your coat pocket and more like a standard makeup compact.
I see the structural argument there. And looking at the New Zealand spec sheet, they've also tweaked the Armor Flex hinge to reduce mechanical friction.
Which is nice for the opening and closing feel.
Right. And there's new Flex titanium display support underneath the glass, though we are still sitting at the same IP48 water and particle resistance rating.
Yeah, no change there.
But there is a glaring detail regarding the outside cover screen, the 4.1-inch flex window.
Ah, yes. The cover screen.
The physical hardware is completely identical to the Flip 7. I mean, it is the exact same size, the same 120 Hz refresh rate, and the exact same 2600 nits of peak brightness. Yet, the marketing materials treat this cover screen like a massive upgrade.
Because the glass isn't the upgrade. The software running on the glass is.
Okay, explain that.
The Z Flip 8 launches with One UI 9, and this fundamentally changes the user behavior. Previously, that cover screen was highly restricted.
Yeah, it felt very limited.
It was essentially a glorified smartwatch interface.
Yeah.
You had rigid widgets, a notification ticker, and maybe a few approved apps if you use some clunky workarounds.
Right.
But One UI 9 completely removes those guardrails. You now have direct app tray access right on the Flex window.
Meaning you don't have to unfold the phone just to, like, pull up a boarding pass or reply to a Slack message?
Exactly. You can manage your widgets, open your app tray, and engage with the operating system deeply while keeping the phone snapped shut.
That's actually a huge time saver.
It is, and this is actually a brilliant piece of behavioral engineering. Think about it. The entire philosophy of a clamshell phone is to give you a massive screen when you need to watch a video.
But prevent you from getting sucked into an hour of doom scrolling when you just wanted to check the weather.
Yes, by making that 4.1-inch screen fully capable, they're actively trying to break the habit of mindlessly unfolding the device.
But forcing standard Android apps to run efficiently on a tiny, almost square external display without crashing, that requires the software to do a massive amount of heavy lifting.
Oh, absolutely.
It has to reformat UIs on the fly and predict what you are trying to do. And that requires an immense amount of processing power under the hood, which takes us straight into the brain of this device.
The silicon architecture. This is where the spec sheets get incredibly complicated and, frankly, a bit controversial.
Very controversial. So every Flip 8 comes with 12 gigabytes of RAM and ships with Android 17.
And Samsung is also guaranteeing an impressive 7 years of OS upgrades.
Which means this phone is supported until 2033. That's wild.
It really is.
But there is a massive regional divide in the actual engines running the phone. If you buy the Flip 8 in the United States or China, you get Qualcomm's brand new Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 processor, which is built on a 3-nanometer architecture. But if you walk into a store in London or Paris or Mumbai, you get Samsung's in-house Exynos 2600 chip, which is a 2-nanometer architecture. Why is the global market playing a silicon lottery?
It really just comes down to supply chain leverage and manufacturing yield.
Like they just can't make enough of them.
Partially. But also, if Samsung relies 100% on Qualcomm for their flagship chips, Qualcomm completely dictates the price.
Ah, I see.
By dual sourcing and using their own Exynos chips for the global market, Samsung maintains negotiating power and ensures they physically have enough silicon to meet the launch demand.
But from the consumer's perspective, I am paying premium flagship prices. If I am in the UK getting the Exynos, while a US buyer gets the Snapdragon, should I feel cheated? We are talking about two completely different microarchitectures here.
You'd think there would be a massive performance gulf, especially since the Exynos is using a denser 2-nanometer process, while the Snapdragon is on a 3-nanometer node.
Yeah, lower nanometers usually means better efficiency.
Usually, yes. But the reality of smartphone silicon in 2026 is that we have hit a ceiling for daily utility. Unless you are running side-by-side benchmark software to measure synthetic frame rates, the real-world difference in opening an app, streaming a video, or shooting a photo is completely imperceptible to you as a user.
So the bottleneck isn't the raw speed anymore.
Exactly.
It's the AI.
Precisely. The most important silicon upgrade across both of these chips isn't the central processor, it's the neural processing unit, the NPU.
And the NPU on the Flip 8 is 41% faster than last year, right?
Yep, a massive jump.
And this loops right back to the cover screen.
Yeah.
Because according to the New Zealand sources, the NPU is handling heavy, localized tasks directly on that flex window.
Yeah, this is where it gets really impressive.
We are talking about the interpreter feature, which translates live spoken conversations in real time, live translate for voice calls, circle to search, and chat assist, which rewrites your hastily typed text messages so you don't sound completely unprofessional.
And all of that is happening on device. That is the critical factor.
Not in the cloud.
Exactly. When you use voice to text on older phones, your audio file is often sent to a cloud server, transcribed, and sent back. That takes time and requires an internet connection.
And a fast one, usually.
Right. But the Flip 8's NPU is powerful enough to process foreign language translation and tone adjustment locally, right in your hand, without pinging a server.
Which allows you to use these complex AI tools fluidly on the cover screen without that frustrating lag.
Yes.
But trapping that much localized processing power inside a tiny folding box brings up the unavoidable laws of thermodynamics.
Oh yeah, it does.
Intense on-device AI calculations generate massive amounts of energy.
Heat, the absolute nemesis of compact electronics.
Okay, let's talk about that heat, because among our source materials today is a transcript excerpt from an official Samsung YouTube video titled Cases of Galaxy Z Flip 8.
I've been waiting for this.
I literally have to read this because it is just bizarre. The transcript literally just repeats the word heat 8 times in a row.
Just the word heat.
Quote, heat, 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 heat. It reads like an SOS transmission from a processor that is actively melting.
It is incredibly telling, even if it's just a strange auto-caption error or a marketing quirk. Thermal management in a foldable is an absolute nightmare for engineers.
Because you can't cool it like a normal phone.
Right. In a standard non-folding phone, engineers put a massive copper vapor chamber across the entire back of the device to pull heat away from the processor and dissipate it evenly.
But a foldable has a giant mechanical hinge cutting straight across the middle.
Exactly. You cannot easily bridge a liquid vapor chamber across moving gears. So all of that intense heat from the Snapdragon or Exynos chip is trapped entirely in the top half of the phone.
But right behind the camera and the cover screen.
Exactly. The bottom half where the main battery sits stays cool. The top half just bakes.
And that thermal constraint directly impacts the battery technology. The Laptop Outlet Guide and Wikipedia both confirm the battery capacity is exactly the same as last year, 4,300 milliamp hours. However, they've shifted the underlying chemistry to use new silicon-carbon battery tech. Now, my understanding is that traditional phone batteries use graphite anodes, which form a sort of lattice structure for lithium ions to rest in.
Yes, that's the standard.
But silicon, on the other hand, chemically bonds with lithium, meaning it can hold significantly more energy in the same physical space. But there is a massive catch, isn't there?
There really is. Silicon expands violently when it absorbs those lithium ions.
Violently.
It does. Pure silicon can swell up to 300% of its original size when fully charged.
Wow. Obviously, if the battery inside a 13.1 millimeter glass phone expands by 300%, the device will literally tear itself apart.
Exactly. So the chemical engineering breakthrough here is the carbon integration. They use a carbon scaffold to basically constrain the silicon, allowing them to tap into that higher energy density without the catastrophic swelling.
That's fascinating.
This is how they maintain a 4,300 milliamp hour capacity while still shaving 0.6 millimeters off the chassis.
It's an incredible structural achievement, but Wikipedia does flag long-term concerns about it. Even with the carbon scaffold, that micro-expansion and contraction over hundreds of charge cycles leads to degradation.
It takes a toll.
And it seems like Samsung is painfully aware of this thermal and chemical tightrope because the charging speeds on this phone are aggressively stagnant.
They are playing it incredibly safe here.
I mean, we are stuck at 25-watt wired charging. That gets you to roughly 55% battery in 30 minutes. And wireless charging is capped at just 15 watts.
Which is pretty slow for 2026.
Yeah. There were rumors for months about a 45-watt upgrade this year, but it was a complete myth. Think about what this means for your daily routine. If you are at an airport and you realize your phone is at 10% right before a long flight, a 25-watt cap means you're going to be sitting on the floor, tethered to a wall outlet at your gate for 45 minutes.
Nobody wants that.
Meanwhile, other devices on the market can hit 100 watts and give you a full day's charge in 15 minutes.
It is deeply frustrating for power users. But, we have to look at cause and effect. Fast charging generates heat.
And we just established that the top half of this folding phone is already struggling to dissipate the heat from the 41% faster AI processor.
Exactly. If you pump 100 watts of raw electricity into the bottom half, the entire thermal system collapses. They're intentionally throttling the charging speed to protect that new, delicate silicon-carbon battery from degrading over that promised 7-year lifespan.
It's a calculated engineering compromise.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, that theme of compromise carries over directly to the cameras. If you were hoping for a massive optical leap, the Flip 8 is a letdown.
Yeah, the hardware is untouched.
The camera hardware is literally identical to the Flip 7. You have a 50-megapixel main sensor, a 12-megapixel ultra-wide, and absolutely no telephoto lens for optical zoom.
Zero optical zoom hardware.
Right. The upgrades are entirely software tricks, things like horizontal lock to stabilize video, flip shot, dual recording. But if I am paying over $1,000 for a flagship device in 2026, shouldn't I be getting flagship camera hardware?
Well, if you judge the device purely against a traditional slab phone, like a Galaxy S Ultra or an iPhone Pro, then yes, the cameras look severely underpowered.
Right.
But context is everything here. You aren't buying the Z Flip 8 to photograph architectural details from a mile away or shoot a wildlife documentary. The value of this camera is the form factor itself.
You mean the built-in tripod effect?
Exactly that. You can fold the hinge to 90 degrees, set the phone on a cafe table, and record a hands-free video or take a group shot.
Or use the cover screen.
Yeah, you can use the high-quality 50-megapixel main sensor to take mirror selfies because that flex window acts as your viewfinder.
But why not just add better lenses anyway?
Because they physically cannot. When unfolded, the top half of this phone is barely 6.1 millimeters thick. fitting a complex, multi-layered periscope telephoto lens inside a piece of glass that thin defies the current laws of physics.
Ah.
They were relying on the NPU and software algorithms to enhance the photos because they have completely maxed out the physical space available.
Okay, so let's summarize where we're at. The Flip 8 is marginally thinner and lighter. It has the exact same battery capacity, the exact same slow charging speeds, and the exact same camera hardware as last year.
Yep, all true.
The tangible upgrades are the new Exynos or Snapdragon processors, the localized AI capabilities, the silicon carbon battery chemistry, and One UI 9 giving you full app access on the cover screen.
Which brings us to the financial reality.
Yes, the bottom line. Let's look at the pricing data because this is where the illusionist's trick really gets tested. So what does this all mean?
Brace yourself.
According to Laptop Outlet, in the UK, the starting price for the 256GB model is $11,149. That is a £100 price hike over last year's model.
That hurts.
But it gets worse. If you want the 512GB model, you are paying $1,319, which is a massive £170 price hike.
Ouch.
And in India, Reliance Digital lists the starting price at a staggering ours. $1,034,999. I mean, I have to push back hard here.
Go on.
You are asking consumers to pay up to £170 more for the exact same storage, the exact same screens, and the same cameras. Are we honestly just paying a massive premium just so we can open an app on the cover screen?
Look, the sticker shock is completely valid. When you evaluate the bill of materials, the physical glass and metal, a 170-pound hike on the higher storage tier feels impossible to justify.
It really does.
The Laptop Outlet Buyer's Guide doesn't mince words about this either. They explicitly warn anyone currently holding a Z Flip 7 to stay far away from the Flip 8 unless a carrier is offering a virtually free trade-in deal.
So if you have last year's phone, do not buy this.
Exactly. For a year-over-year upgrade, the physical hardware is just too stagnant.
But is there a hidden value proposition here for anyone else?
Yes, and it lies in the long game. You aren't paying the premium for the titanium or the glass. You are paying a premium for future-proofing.
The 7 years of updates.
Right. Samsung's commitment to 7 years of OS updates means this device needs to handle whatever bloated, heavy AI software exists in the year 2033.
Good point.
To survive that long without grinding to a halt, you need the thermal efficiency of the 3nm Snapdragon or the 2nm Exynos, and you desperately need that vastly more powerful NPU.
So the buyer demographic is actually incredibly narrow.
It is split into two distinct groups. Group 1, people who have never owned a foldable phone.
The first-timers.
Yeah. If you are finally making the jump from a standard slab phone, the Flip 8 is the most refined, polished, durable clamshell Samsung has ever made. It was a fantastic entry point.
Okay, and group 2?
People clinging to a Z Flip 5 or something even older. When you skip 2 or 3 generations, you aren't just getting one minor update.
You're getting all of them at once.
Exactly. You are feeling the aggregate impact of a thinner hinge, a cover screen that has evolved from a notification ticker to a fully functional display, vastly superior AI processing, and better battery chemistry. For them, it feels like a monumental leap.
So it's not about the single step the manufacturer took this year. It's about the accumulated distance you are covering by finally upgrading.
Precisely. The Flip 8 is a masterclass in iteration. It is a highly polished evolution, but it is unequivocally not a revolution.
Well, we have certainly pulled back the curtain on this particular magic trick. We've debated the real-world impact of 8 grams of weight, unraveled the geopolitical silicon lottery, explored the thermal limits of silicon carbon batteries, and finally, calculated exactly who should actually be opening their wallets today.
It's a lot to process.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. You know, navigating tech spec sheets can often feel like wading through muddy marketing waters, and we really hope this conversation gives you the clarity you need to make an informed decision for your daily life.
It is always illuminating to look past the shiny presentation and examine the raw mechanics holding it all together.
But before we sign off, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over. Something that honestly hasn't left my mind since we started looking at these sources.
What's that?
Well, if companies like Samsung are now perfectly comfortable keeping the cameras, the displays, and the battery capacities completely identical to last year, and the only real tangible upgrades we get are background software algorithms and a faster AI chip, Are we witnessing the end of physical hardware innovation?
Oh, that's a heavy question.
Right. Like, will the smartphones of our future just become identical, unchanging glass vessels, just
Mhm.
empty cups that we buy once a decade, while the actual magic, the features we actually care about, happen completely invisibly updated overnight in the cloud?
It certainly redefines what it means to actually own a piece of technology.
It does indeed. Keep questioning the devices you carry in your pocket every day, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.